Hey, I'm sitting here with Barry and Bryan, and this is Loudwire. Check. Is that how it goes?
It's the What Podcast. I'm Barry. That's Russ. That's Bryan. We've got a special guest. We've been talking about this forever. Russ, you and I have talked about it, and we kind of have to blame Bryan. We don't like planning. We don't like thinking. We don't like whatever. Bryan, on the other hand, does, and we have been more puckered about this show than I've ever been in the history of the What Podcast. We've never spent so much energy.
We've never planned anything.
No. And Beth, I mean, you should be honored, I guess. It's because we all think so highly of you. We want to do this one right, and that's 100% the truth. But we've got a lot to get through. Namely GWAR. That's right. What we're going to talk about first. We're going to do that, and you've got the t-shirt behind us. This was so much fun. But it's also just your story, your history. I'm kind of at a loss for words because there's so much that we're going to get to with this episode and this show because it's so Bonnaroo. Everything about this is Bonnaroo. Am I right, guys?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The just randomness, the randomness of Bonnaroo is everybody understands that. Anybody who's been there for any length of time understands that that's one of the coolest parts. Like, there's so many cool parts, but on the top of that list, somewhere near the top, is the randomness of people you meet, the things you do, the things you come across that you never in a million years expect. And so that certainly is part of it.
Here's what I want to do. We're going to show the interview that Bryan and Russ and I did with GWAR. And we've been hyping this thing up since the festival ended. GWAR became, what would you guys say? I mean, those guys gave everything they had to this festival, right? We've had, whatever you want to call them, mayors of Bonnaroo, Childish. We've had Warren Haynes. We've had people who have become John Mayer, Les Claypool, yeah. But man, these guys bought in, right?
It would appear, my guess is that for some reason management within this pretty big infrastructure that is GWAR, it's kind of its own industry for a quarter century. They were all in from the top down of their infrastructure to say we're gonna give it our all. We're gonna be everywhere. They did all kinds of little just kind of, I don't know if I want to call them takeovers, but just presence all over the farm in different areas. A lot of areas we don't even know about.
Yeah,
but there
appearances, whatever.
Yeah,
you
there was a
call
whole
it.
video where they took over the production truck.
Yeah,
that they killed the guy who was in charge of production for video. Like, that was a small footnote that I only saw a clip of. And then when we got the emails coming in, and we get flooded with emails of check out this and come see here and talk to this person, and they're not, some are serious, some are not as much, just promotional emails. And then we get this one that at first I thought when you forwarded it, Barry, that it was just another big mass email, and it was maybe not AI generated, but pretty close. That wasn't true at all. It was a
we had no idea.
A quick response, real human of like, hey, do
an interview. You want to do an interview with GWAR? That
looks like.
That's
Now,
what it
at
was.
first,
I'm like,
I thought,
heck yeah.
man, we're the most special thing going here. Well, they were inviting pretty much.
I got over that. I've got over that years ago.
Well, in this one in particular,
but I also
for some
said
reason,
yes.
Yeah, of course, I know, and you even did it in character too, along with it. I mean, it was
that was Taco. Taco was like, what was it? can't. What was it you said?
Well, it was the offer was that Blothar was going to be doing the weddings, and I said, well,
Blothar.
they asked if we wanted to join, and I said, we can't disappoint Blothar.
Yes, attention humans and members of the press.
Yeah.
This message is for your lords and masters, interplanetary overlords and kings of shock rock. GWAR will be devastating the da 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 da, and he goes on from there. And it's like, what the hell is this?
Even their PR is in character.
Yeah. Even the PR it's completely in character.
Yeah, and so Russ responds back, yeah, we can't disappoint Blothar. So we got it all lined up, and, we're like, whatever, we're going to get whatever we can. And then we start going back in the media area, and these guys are everywhere, right? I mean, they are in full costume. It's 8 million degrees.
Yeah.
Right? And they're in full costume. And we're thinking, well, that's a quickie. They're in and out, whatever. And then Bryan and I are in the tent area trying to gather ourselves.
Trying to figure out what the hell we're supposed to do next.
And I get a text that says, we're ready if you guys are. And so I run out and get Russ and whoever else. And we do this. We end up with this interview.
All right, guys, what a special moment. We're here with Grodius Maximus.
Oh, yeah, it's Grodius Maximus. I am the new guy, so you wouldn't know that necessarily. You got to check the
That's why I
Wikipedia.
didn't recognize you.
Grodius Maximus. Of course, it's
Pretty
one of my
new.
skill sets is getting names wrong.
You got
so
it,
I
Barry.
apologize for that. Thank you guys for coming in, flying down from wherever.
Antarctica.
home base is,
Yep.
Antarctica.
Outer space, wherever, right?
Yeah. Originally.
How'd the wedding thing go?
I was jacking off in the trailer back there, so I missed it. But I heard it was sexy.
You weren't there to bless the couple and all that.
Well, I blessed them from afar, we'll say.
Right,
So,
nice,
Have
nice.
you been worshipped adequately so far on the farm here?
so far it hasn't been enough. We're gonna need another couple thousand, kind of bowing down
we
to
bow
us.
down to
yeah,
you. We
you
bow
guys are a good
down.
start. Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
obviously, Bonnaroo is a special place. What's this show going to be like?
This is my first time hearing about this place. I'm really kind of like out of the loop. So I'm more of like a local DIY show kind of guy, like playing under bridges, lighting cop cars on fire and shit like that. So never heard of this corporate shit before, but here we are. I don't know. Seems stupid.
Yeah, you're looking around. We're seeing all these people here. It's very corporate, so it's a little different for
Yeah.
for
Liquid
your
death. Cool.
What are people going to see, man? I mean, a GWAR show is an event.
It's hard to say tonight. I think we're cutting some songs from our normal set, but there may be some penises. There will definitely be lots of penises.
Plenty
that
of
you'll see.
penises. Good.
Yeah.
So I was getting ready for this, and I asked a big fan of yours, and I said, "What should I ask?" He said, "Ask them where they source their dildos."
Dildos are all made in house by our,
Right.
illustrious
Back to the
team.
DIY roots, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, all right, you got to make your own. So, all right, what else we got to know?
How much blood y'all throwing around tonight?
Jeez,
You gonna make
man.
a mess?
It depends
You've
on how
already
many
made
people.
a mess, I can tell.
Yeah. It's always getting all over the place. It depends on how many people are in the crowd.
So
one
there'll
of
be
the-
some people in the crowd.
At
There's
least
always-
4,000
Wearing
courts.
white, too.
Right?
Wearing
Yeah.
white.
So one of the tips I always heard is showers are a big deal here because we're out here on a 700-acre farm and it's a bazillion degrees. So
Right.
go to a GWAR show at 2:00 or whatever this morning.
See how many people's time you can ruin.
You gotta hit that shower, man.
If
You gotta
anything, we'll
plan.
probably wipe all the dirt and semen off of
Dirty
them.
hippies,
so,
man.
Yeah,
They're
we're-
everywhere
luckily,
around
we
here.
have a private jet, so we got showers up on that bitch, so we'll
outta
be
here.
fine. Yeah,
Outta
we're
here.
fucking back to Antarctica.
Nice. All right, Grodius, thanks, man.
Thank
Barry.
you for your time.
Thank you so much
Barry,
for your
thank you so
time.
much.
It's
Russ?
nice to meet you.
Bryan.
Bryan,
Bryan,
that's
that's
Russ.
Russ.
Oh, you guys all got green
Good,
shirts
awesome.
I said,
on.
I
Right
feel so
there.
bad now.
No, love you guys.
So there you go. That was our 3.5-minute interview with Grodius Maximus. And it was every bit as rude as you would think. It was funny. I didn't know where to go with it because it was just rude, but it was funny. And then they were everywhere, right? That was the other thing. You guys had pictures made with them. all the people who put on the festival were coming in and having their pictures made with the GWAR, and then they did the show, right? And that,
Didn't they do a tea party too?
It
Wasn't
was
there?
well-
Didn't they have
GWAR,
tea
yeah.
with people?
thank you for bringing that
Yeah.
up. That to me is still the funniest
Which I wish I had
thing
done.
I've
Yeah.
ever heard of. Have tea with GWAR. I think that's the funniest poster.
Yeah, this was not
I
one of
think
those
that's
bands that steps off the tour bus onto stage, does the show, then gets back on and is in another city by the evening. No, they were here the full weekend, and they really they were everywhere. They were all over the place. Yeah, they're doing all kinds of stuff like that.
Which is amazing in the costumes. I just can't believe they were walking around
Yeah,
in
full
costumes
costume.
that whole time.
That's hot.
And disgusting
And gross.
looking the whole time. Like on stage while you're doing your production is one thing, but to walk around everywhere looking like that, I mean, that's her thing. So I mean, I get it, but
So for
was
people who
wild.
don't know, GWAR,
Yeah.
what are they? They're like aliens. I never have gotten. They're alien transformer.
There's some
arms.
story.
There's a
Lore.
whole backstory lore to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know.
And so we knew that they were gonna blood splatter, semen, body parts, whatever is a big part of what they do, right? So we were at our camp talking about this show coming up at Thursday, right? Was it Thursday?
yeah, Thursday night,
At
late night, 1:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
1
Central Time.
o'clock, and so we're talking about it. And Beth, you're going to shoot it, right? You,
Right.
So again, to bring Beth in, it's so complicated, you guys. So Beth has been going since 2004, but you come and you're a teacher by day,
Right.
But
Right.
but a photographer also, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Photography is my side gig.
And you
So
shoot.
I teach college classes, so I'm off in the summer, and I also do a lot of freelance stuff. But I'm a photographer for Nashville.com. That's our
Nashville.com.
that's our team.
And if you would, Beth, before as we get into this, when you're explain how it works when you're there to shoot shows, but you can't do them all, and
Right.
it's not. I mean, it's not possible to do them all, but you're not scheduled to do them all, and you don't have access to do them all. And sometimes,
Right.
correct me if I'm wrong, you don't know until very close until it's time to potentially do the show that's one that you have clearance for, right? To explain that process.
Right. I mean, that's just for the biggest bands. Some of them have lists, and they'll choose a set of photographers that they're going to allow to shoot. So that's the big shows like Chapel Roan, the Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
Some of those we didn't get access to, and we find out usually the day of. They send us an email to let us know if we're on the list.
That's got to be pretty annoying for planning to do your work, right?
I mean, it is and it isn't. You kind of know by this point that you're not going to,
Okay.
it's up to the band. It's up to the band whether they want, how many people they want in the pit. Cage the Elephant let us all be there for the whole show. So that was amazing because he was jumping around and in the pit and moving
great
into
show.
the crowd. And yeah, it was a great show, and we got to shoot the whole thing. So
And a lot of times,
You
especially with the bigger artists, and Barry, you've done this for forever too. It's usually like a 3-song thing, right? Like you get in here,
Right.
You get your work done in 3 songs. Don't look at them too
Yeah.
hard. Like there's a lot.
Right.
There's a long list of things to follow. But
Right.
sometimes for like Cage or others, it's just like, have at it, guys and gals.
Occasionally, yeah, it was like that for Cage this year. 3-6 Mafia let us shoot the whole thing last year because they had guest stars coming in. I think Cage probably let us shoot the whole thing because they knew they'd be moving around and in the crowd so much. So maybe they just wanted to give us a chance to
To get those shots, yeah.
get those shots, get out of their way. I don't know, but I really appreciated it. That was awesome.
Like doing it?
Yes.
I do. I did 2, and then I don't, because then it becomes work. Because then they kick you out, and you don't get to see the show, but you get to
Yeah,
see
that's
stuff
true.
that other people don't. So, and I'm sort of thinking along the lines of GWAR. You got to get up close, in a space
Well,
that nobody
yeah.
else does. but then you
as close as you dare to get. Yeah.
Yeah.
GWAR was a challenge because and I knew it was going to be. I actually saw GWAR the last time they were at Bonnaroo also. And at the time, my ex was a photographer and had a media pass, and I had a guest pass. So for the first time I saw them, I was backstage, and I didn't take pictures because it didn't seem like, the right thing to do.
Right.
But I saw them they were getting into their costumes, and they had fans on them, and then they had gone out on stage. So I kind of knew what to expect. I knew that it was going to be, we're all trying to protect our cameras. So we want those great shots, but we're also it's day one and we're carrying around, really expensive cameras. So that kind of has to be the priority, even though we want to really get in there.
Yeah. So that GWAR, is my memory working here when I say, Beth, that was 2010?
I think 9 or 10. Yeah.
I believe it was a Friday night, and it was more in a time frame that would have been earlier in the nighttime. I
think so.
Yeah, I looked at it. I don't know what that means from that. What the difference from that to this? But this was this year 1 a.m. late night.
Yeah.
So they had been there since the morning all the way till 1 at night, and it didn't. I remember when GWAR was there in 10, and they're just the urgency to see that show wasn't there for me. That was a long time ago. Could have been in a different place. This year, the urgency to see them amongst the environment that I was in and people I was talking to, not just from us doing the early interviews and the anticipation, the photo shoots and all that, was, well, we're all going to see GWAR. I mean, that's what's happening tonight. And it was
there was a lot of buzz.
Yeah, it was a big deal. And that's why they did the PR blast, I guess.
Well, they put out that T-shirt ahead of time, the GWAR X Bonnaroo shirt, which I really wish I'd bought. I don't think they actually had it at Bonnaroo itself. But remember, they were putting out a T-shirt ahead of time.
Okay.
So I think they tried to build interest in GWAR because it was the first night. Because it was the only band like that this year. I mean, nobody's like GWAR anyway, but they didn't have a lot of diversity in the type of music. So to have this kind of extreme metal band,
and Pretty Lights would have been done.
Push it.
Yeah, Pretty Lights was the other big storyline on that Thursday, as everybody knows, on the What stage.
Yeah,
but that was an early set. That was done by like midnight. So after there was only one thing left to do, and that was the build up all day long of going to see GWAR. And it was a nice. It was I'm sure you couldn't see it because you were up close, but it was a really good crowd, but not one of those annoyingly bad crowds at the tent.
No.
Yeah. I did shoot two bands in between though, so there was a gap in between Pretty Lights and then GWAR that people were walking around and seeing some shows.
And so to set it back up again to Brian's point, and it happened sort of, I hate to say organically, but we were all just sitting around talking about how these guys were everywhere, right? And they were so cool, and they were everywhere. And we are at our camp, which you have become such a huge part of, which is why we're talking about this. Bryan and Russ and I, we went from 30-something people in Camp Nut Butter to 3 this year. So when we showed up, when we showed up, it's like, is this it? Or are we done? And all of a sudden, we're next to you and Mike and Brad and Jerry, and like, wow, we're completely re-energized. Completely. I just want to say that up front. I mean, I think you came over and took pictures of us when we were sitting in Russ's bus, and we're like, man, I'm back in type of thing.
Yeah.
And it was in large part because of you guys.
We're kind of de facto one camp now. I mean, it's kind of the normal, the new normal.
Yeah.
We might have to hyphenate it. I never asked you, Beth, if y'all named your camps.
We didn't. We didn't. I wish we had. So
Well, then
yeah,
you're just nut butter
Yeah,
now.
you just absorbed into the
whether you
nut
like
butter.
it or
I
not.
don't know. No, I think we want a crossover. I don't know if we want to get absorbed by nut
yeah.
butter. We got to figure that out.
Fair enough.
We want to camp together forever, but we're our own entity still within this like GWAR X
I'm
Bonnaroo.
sorry, I didn't mean to take it over.
And I want to go there because you guys crush it. But I want to continue with this GWAR thing. We're sitting there, and I brought a bunch of our T-shirts, the Never Not Great T-shirts, which Ken Weinstein's quote, and those are the Camp Nut Butter T-shirts and the What Podcast T-shirts, and I gave basically anyone who would take one because I wanted it out of my basement.
The leftover stock, the leftover Patreon stock is huge.
Correct. And I gave everyone, and you got one, and we got to talking about GWAR and how funny it would be to get the blood on it, and you said, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. And so you put on a poncho and then an extra whatever, the biggest one we could because that would fit over whatever. And you're like, I don't want to get my camera damaged. And that was so cool. And this is the shirt, and I am so proud to have it in my. I don't know what I'm going to do with it.
Well, wait
but
a minute.
It's one of my prized possessions.
I did it too. You glossed over me.
Yeah, but you didn't get any
Oh
blood.
yeah,
No.
Taco really tried. Taco wasn't close enough, right?
Well, no,
so, did you get any blood on you?
Yeah, you were very close, right? Russ?
I was on the rail. I was,
Yeah.
and then JB, our friend JB from the Rubus camp, he was 20 feet away from me, and he got soaked. I mean, he wore an all white suit.
And you didn't get a damn
and I
drop,
didn't get
right?
Anything, no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll compare.
I had to.
But that was the plan.
I had to work really
Both of
hard
us
not to get
put the
too
shirts
much on me. Yeah. Yep, that was the plan. We walked over together, didn't we? From something.
Yeah, we walked over, and then
And,
you went into the photo pit, and I got on the rail as close as I could. I tried to get, and yeah, I got nothing.
And David Bruce took a picture of you taking a picture, right? I mean, so we have all of that.
Oh, was David there?
Yeah, I think, didn't he?
He took a picture of the because we went over to Rushing Murphy after, and I got him to take a picture of the shirt on because I didn't want to get it. I didn't want to get it dirty or get other stuff on. I was like, can you just document that I did this? And I still had the poncho on under it.
You don't want to contaminate the evidence.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, I almost chickened out. I almost just wore the poncho over the shirt. But then one of the guys in the front row was like, you got the perfect shirt. You got to wear that. And I was like, okay. So they were handing out ponchos to the photographers. And I put that on, then pulled the shirt on over it. And then I kept trying. I mean, I could have gotten soaked, but I kept trying to get just enough on it, kind of like get myself into the stream of blood so that I could get some drops.
I think
on
I got
shirt.
a picture of you with the poncho on, and then the t-shirt over it, and then a bonnet over your hair, and then the camera's on a little jacket. Yeah, you looked like you were.
Yeah, because it's day one. You don't want to get covered in blood on day one.
Who does that?
Who does that? It's so disorienting because it's day one. It's 1:00 in the morning. You're just getting your bearings. I had just gotten a new camera body, so I was trying to get used to that.
Yeah,
it's loud. It's so it was awesome.
Since you were so close, see, I was way on the outside and watched a lot of it from the screen because I really wanted to see what was going on the stage. I did both. I worked my way in. I was like, okay, I'm going to leave in 20 minutes, so I'm going to work as close as I can just to get a more organic look, and then I'm gone. What did the madness look like that close? Like, was it what you expected?
Yeah.
Less than? More than?
Much. I expected a lot, and it was a lot. All the people in the front row were so excited and wearing their white shirts and
they showed them on the screen, and they're like,
oh yeah,
and they were just they were so fun to talk to. That energy was amazing, especially for Thursday night. Especially for this being one of the first things that we were doing. They were ready.
Was it all at all a like moments of duck and cover? or was
Yeah.
it just?
Yeah.
It was
like-
for me. I don't know what Taco. You were trying to get
I
splattered.
was trying to get
and
splattered,
I was
and
trying to get a little bit.
You could kind of tell when
Yeah.
it was about to happen because they'd bring out a character and you could see.
You knew he would
there's
eventually have
tubes
his head chopped
hanging
off.
off the back. It's like, okay, all right.
You can see
he's
the
gonna get
tubes,
his head
yeah,
chopped
yeah.
off, and all right, it's gonna, yeah. But
Yeah.
and that's that was great.
This is like a chainsaw thing that's going to spin, so you know it's going to
Right.
shoot all this spinning blood all over everything. So the photographers were just like running back and forth, like we would see it coming, and we'd all like scurry off to one side and then come back in, and then and I was trying to get a little bit, but I wasn't trying to get soaked because I didn't want to risk the camera at that stage of the game, or ever, really.
All right, so now we're into it. I want to hear your Bonnaroo story, and I'm going to let Bryan and Russ ask you questions because I'm so fascinated by it. Because I mean, we kind of talked around it, but the fact that you ended up next to us and Nut Butter is crazy, and it means everything to me, actually, because it's such a perfect Bonnaroo story. How you got there, how you ended up with Mike and Jerry and Brad. I thought I knew the story 3 years ago when we ended up together, but I don't. Bryan has a great podcast, Stone on Air, where he talks about his late night conversations with you. And I haven't even heard Russ's. I mean, Russ has camped next to you for 3 years, so let's go head down that rabbit hole if you don't mind, because I just think it's just a perfect Bonnaroo story.
Yeah.
How'd you get here? Why are we talking today?
All right, let's go. Okay. So I told you I started coming to Bonnaroo with my ex. We were living in Philadelphia at the time. So at first we flew and did the VIP thing. Again, ran up credit card debt doing the VIP thing. Did that for years. And eventually he got photo passes and guest passes. So we started camping in guest camping. And then the year we broke up close enough to Bonnaroo that he still gave me a guest pass, even though we didn't go together. So I flew by myself. I had a giant backpacking, setup. I had to go pick up my credentials at the hotel, and then I walked in from the Holiday Inn. And I was there late.
For anybody who doesn't know,
until...
that's not an easy walk.
No, it's a couple miles.
Yeah, a couple miles.
It was
Yeah, it's
hot and
And a lot of people are
hotness.
wondering what you're doing and might try to stop you and figure out, or if you just act like you own the place, like I've done a time or two, they leave you alone. But it
Works
just
for me.
depends.
Yeah.
Works for us
I
every
tried to
time.
look harmless, but
Yeah.
that was a rough transition because I was, I'd been going with this guy. We've been together for 12 years, and so I was sad. I was alone. I was determined to do this, but I really, I didn't know what I was doing. So I walked in and I was late because I had to teach on the Thursday. So I think I got in on Friday. And I walked in, camp is all full. There are no spots. It seems like I'm overheating and dehydrated. And this guy who looks like the dude from The Big Lebowski kind of looks at me, and this is Brad, and he said, you want to camp over here? And I was like, okay. So there's a little tiny spot for my tent. And I started setting up, and he's like, you need some help? And I was like, no, I'm fine. I'm starting to miserably set up my tent, which I can do, but you
can always use help putting up a tent, no matter who you is.
Well, after a couple of minutes of watching me struggle, he came over, he handed me a cold beer, he started helping me set up my tent, and that's how I met those guys. And so I've been.
What year was that, Beth? What year was that?
I think that was 2011.
Okay, so a little while.
So I camped with them. Then Mike wasn't with us yet. We had another Brad. So Brad, and Jerry. And then the year after, I didn't have a guest pass, so I camped in GA, and I just met up with them at the shows. And then after that, they got me in through Nashville.com because I was already working as a photographer in Philly. And so eventually I got to take photos for them. And I've been doing that since, pretty much. I missed one Bonnaroo. I missed 2017 or 18. The one where the Killers headlined.
Oh, 18.
I've said for a couple of
18.
I've said for a couple of years that we ended up next to you guys 3 years ago, though we didn't get to talk much because I never shut up because I was also with Nate Gale, who also never shut up.
Yeah.
And so I never got to hear all
Love
of
Nate.
that.
Love Nate.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah, know what I
gotta
mean?
give him a lot of credit though. He's been awesome to me in the photo pit.
Oh,
He's taught me
Nate's-
so much. So shout out to Nate.
Love
Nate's
Nate.
awesome.
He's taking pictures, but he can't stop talking. And
It's- yeah,
apparently
it's just
neither
what
can
it
I.
That's true. He would admit that. Yeah.
So we all were together, and I just assumed you were married to one of those three. I just always this whole time thought you were married, and I never shut up long enough to hear. And again, last year,
How I got in
same
there.
thing. And then, I mean, I think we were Thursday, Friday, Saturday before you and I started talking. I was like, "Which one are you married to?" And you're like, "No, I'm." I'm like,
Yeah.
maybe if I would shut up and listen, I would know these sort of stories. So,
Well,
Anyway.
let's go back to, I guess that was 2021, right? That was the first year 2022, when
First
first
year,
year when they kicked us out of the guest camping area, turned it into 931. So, and of course I show up on a Tuesday and they just send me back to this empty field back behind.
You're the first one there every time.
I was one of the first.
People just come around and build around you, Russ.
Yeah, and that's sort of what happened. I mean, y'all showed up, probably Wednesday or Thursday, right?
Yeah.
And,
as early as we can.
yeah, as long as
we
you
always
can.
show up as early as we can.
And I don't even know how we started talking, but y'all were camped nearby. And, Barry, you weren't there yet. Bryan wasn't there yet. Brad wasn't coming. So, I was pretty much holding it down for Camp Nut Butter. And so we just kind of ended
You
up.
do a good job with that. I would be a nervous wreck trying to be that guy.
Gotta make
who's
friends.
trying to keep it together,
Gotta make
waiting for
friends,
all
yeah.
my. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
So-
the bus is a good conversation.
It does.
Piece. I'm
It
sure
does
we
draw
connected over
people
the
in.
bus.
Yeah, it's a good opener.
it brings people
Yeah.
in. But the other thing I want to say about you guys is you guys camp right. I mean,
It's simple and not too big and extravagant, but it's very efficient. Like you've
Yeah.
got all you gotta do is take a look around and be like, okay, I know where everything is. All right.
Yep.
I know how, like, there's no questions on how this thing rolls. Like, it's very, very efficient.
Yeah, my favorite thing is that chuck box that
Yeah.
you drag out and set up on the legs, and you open it up, and it's got all your paper plates, all your condiments, everything you could need.
oh, I like the shoe
Yeah.
rack.
The shoe rack is good too.
Yeah, we add stuff every year. Unfortunately, I can't contribute that much to it because now I fly. So I moved to Washington State, and now I fly out. So I got to give credit to all those guys. They bring. I mean, we think about it all year. We text about it. We have a group chat. I guess our group chat is Roo Crew. So you can call us that if you don't want to refer to each of the names.
That's what I wanted
but-
to ask about is that sort of thing, the planning. Because again, the three of us, I mean, we came minimalist.
Yeah, we used to. You said we went from 30 to 3. That's not an exaggeration. And we used
Yeah.
to rely on a lot of people to do a lot of things that we didn't have to do. And now,
But everybody brought something: picket
Yeah,
fence, carpet, tent, Bloody Mary. Bryan always brought the vodka and the Bloody Mary. Everybody
liquor.
had a role. And that's what I wanted to ask about. Because like I said,
Yeah.
I just always assumed you all were from Nashville and somebody was married and you just did this all the time. But, I mean, you come from across the country, right? So how
Right.
does that work?
Yep. We ramp up our texting ahead of time. We kind of text occasionally through the year, like we'll say Happy New Year or whatever. But as it gets closer, we start talking about the grocery list. We have a shared list, and we put on things on that. Lately, Mike has been doing a lot of that shopping for us. So he goes to Costco and fills out the list. Everybody thinks of things to add, so we keep doing that. But we also have to be really careful because we have 4 people and we don't know if we're going to be able to get more than one car in. So the packing is really complicated with bringing an easy up and the tents and the gear and that the thing that you talked about. I don't really know how to describe it.
Yeah, the shoe rack is the only thing I know. The corner
Well,
shoe rack.
There's the shoe rack, but we also have that.
That's easy to
it's
get
like
in.
A Boy
It
Scout
folds
thing.
flat.
It's solid wood.
Oh, the chuck box,
But
yeah.
the other thing, that red thing, the chuck box. We always have to put that on the top of the car. That pretty much stays packed all the time. And Jerry puts new stickers on it every year, so that was a good purchase. But we're thinking always about maximum fun and best food, and then also being able to get all that into a car with 4 of us.
Yeah, y'all sure killed it with the food too this year.
It's a lot of
breakfast
planning.
burritos,
Yeah, we stepped up our food game.
I don't know what else we had. There was food being made
Stir
on the stir
fries.
fry. Yeah, we had all kinds of good food.
We had really
Yeah.
good food this year.
God, I
Mike
miss
did
stir
a
fry.
lot of good stuff.
I missed all
Yeah.
this. I got a breakfast burrito and it was killer. But I missed all the rest.
stir
Yeah.
fry. I got the stir fry.
Yeah, Brad
dinner.
does
That was
breakfast
crushed.
burritos.
I mean, Beth, so Mike and Brad and Jerry are great guys, and you guys have a great camp. Why do you come back? I mean, that's a long trip for them. For them, and why do you come back? I mean, for them, it's in Nashville. It's an hour. I mean, you're coming cross country. You gotta,
Murfreesboro, yeah.
What is it? I mean,
I mean, you can kind of see bringing it back to all this stuff. This is what I do. This is what I've done my whole life. So I went to Lemon Wheel in 98. I went to Woodstock 99. I then traveled, like that led me into traveling by myself. Then we went to Bonnaroo and just kept doing that. That was our thing every year. And it's gotten even better since I now have a creative outlet. So I feel like I'm also being creative at the festival as a photographer.
Well, I 100,000% get that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's work now, so it's changed things. I'm not just going to relax and just, hang out and see whatever bands I want, but I'm interacting with it in a different way. And now that I've moved from Philadelphia to a small town, I don't get opportunities to shoot anymore. So this is it. I do everything all in that weekend and then pick up my friends' bands on national tours when I can.
I think Russ and Bryan, I think you just spoke for me, that people don't understand. I go for the community, I go for the people that we've met, but it is exactly what you just said. It feels, this is my opportunity to be inside of something really cool and creative and be a small part of it in whatever way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Why don't you?
It doesn't matter how small that
Tea
part
time.
of it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Why don't-
it's still.
why don't
It's
you-
still.
Why don't you go ahead and shout out your Instagram? Speaking of photography.
Oh yeah, eThorpe Photo is my ETHORPE photo, and I need to put some more of the ones up on that. That's my pro thing. And then Nashville.com, so I shoot for them. So the Bonnaroo photos should be up there. And yeah, I mean, I have a website. It's ElizabethThorpePhotography.com. But again, I need to update it. It's really hard because I love being a photographer, but it's my side hustle because I teach college classes. Everything else is in the writing English world, and this is my visual outlet. Yeah. So it's not really a business yet, but I would love to do more with it.
Well, we have another connection too, right? Because you've been joining the Twitch streams for the last year or so.
Oh yeah, I've been on the.
Wait, what?
My duck. Yeah, I've been watching Taco on Twitch, so I'm part of that whole group.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that, Beth?
It's you just kind of. It's the community. Now I'm friends with all Taco's friends.
You have too much free time is what that is.
Well, I haven't had any
true.
time to do anything on Twitch lately, but hopefully,
you haven't been on there in a while.
Hopefully, I can get back on here as things kind of wind down. But yeah, that's another way we've.
Good. I always look out for it.
Yeah, it's another way we've stayed in touch for the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna have to explore this idea, guys, on the show. This idea of it being a creative outlet for other people like us.
Yeah.
I mean, our friend David, obviously David Bruce, and you, so many people. Bonnaroo is more than just. That's what people don't understand. It's more than just going to see a show. I don't think people get the layers and layers and layers. The people who spend all year doing things and have created other outlets.
Well, let's just speak to that real quick, Barry.
I think it's I think it's cool.
So I mean, the creativity of the general attendee has exploded in the last 10 years, from just the simple little wristband sharing thing to the costumes,
building
and the
your
dress
camp,
and the fashion and the camp and how they've created. So there's a creative element, and now that Instagram and is turned into a more popular, better to most people, not to me, but version of TikTok where you can kind of create. Everybody can be a creator. And I think everybody gets a little bit of a feel of that, right? Like, I mean, it feels like to me, and it's not just, hey, look at this band I saw, look at this thing I made, and look at these people I hung out with, and this other things we were involved with. It makes you feel important.
Well, look at Totems, right? Totems went from like a sign on a stick to
the outfits.
Yeah, now they're electronic and light up, and
Yeah.
They're incredible works of art themselves. And so it really does feel like a part of a community and something that you're contributing to, even if it's like, tiny amount, but it's still, and I think people get a lot of joy out of that. And that's something that's very unique to, maybe Coachella, got their own version of this, but this side of the country, it's Bonnaroo. Who else? Lollapalooza doesn't have that. It's a concert, you go see Jane's Addiction, and you rock out and you have fun, and then you go home.
Selfie and go home. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's still it's got its own little ethos, but it's not this. And that's really fun part of it.
So, and I've asked you before, is this the only event that y'all do? But it's not, right?
So far.
This
is it.
Okay.
This is the only event we all do together so far. I'm thinking about coming for Cave Fest sometime if I can make it work.
Yeah, make it work. Because I was there at Cave Fest last year and saw Mike and Jerry and Brad. So we've already talked about doing it this year. So if you can swing it,
All right.
It's a long weekend for me, so if I get flights, I might be able to do it.
All right, so I'm gonna let you and Bryan, because y'all ended up having a late night talk, and I have to imagine I was snoring. There's no way I was not. I don't know how you guys talked over.
Gone.
I think even I went to bed.
I don't think you were
by that
there.
point.
But y'all ended up having a really unusual conversation where your paths crossed, right? And I really want to hear about that.
Yeah, so we were, if I remember right, Beth changed me or correct me where my memory's not working. It was late on Saturday, so Pretty Light Show was gonna be the sunrise set, and we were both in the media area kind of for like the final time for the day. Maybe I'm usually there just to get everything powered up so I don't have to worry about power until the middle of the next day. That's basically what I was doing. And then it was just kind of like, hey, go hang out and just chill for a little bit. I mean, I think everybody had crashed. Russ, that was the night we didn't know if you were gone for the rest of the weekend or you were asleep earlier than ever. And it turns out you were asleep earlier than ever.
Yeah. No, I slept great.
Yeah.
There was
we
deep.
Were like, did Russ find a girl? Like, is he in Bonnaroo with some girl or something?
There was a lot of speculation. Like, where is he at? Is he in there? Would you want to knock on the door?
Right. Where's the blue-haired girl that Russ has found?
Exactly.
Look for the blue hair.
I did the most boring thing and just went to bed.
Yep. Hey. Yeah, and I think Barry had already. You were already out by that point.
Oh, yeah.
So. So then we just start, chit-chatting for, most of the night. And, I mean, this was a late start. I mean, it's probably like 2 a.m. So it's not like it started at like 10 p.m. and went all night long. But, I'm thinking hang out for a few minutes, call it a night soon because Sunday was my favorite day on paper. Mm-hmm. And I needed to make sure, Barry and And Beth, you reminded me of this. I said, there's no chance I'm going to be up all night on Saturday because I have to have a good Sunday. And then
Roll the clip.
yeah, roll the clip. And it turns out, well, here, and you could hear the Pretty Lights set quite well from where we were, which was cool.
Yeah, which was cool.
And just started chit-chatting about things. And, you know, the two biggest ones that stick out was we were both went to Woodstock 99, which is one of my favorite topics, and most people who didn't go
Mine too.
don't care at all to talk about it because everybody knows about the infamous stuff. So it's like, let me tell you about all the fires. Yeah, well, no shit, dude. We already know that.
Yeah.
And if you weren't there, it's just like a Bonnaroo. If you weren't there, it's hard to explain. So there's very few people that I ever, especially 25 years later, get to talk to about it. But then the other one that I about said, all right, it's like I'm getting punked here, or somebody's gone. You know, my information's been leaked online, and I'm being, you know, stalked or followed, and this is a Black Mirror episode from Netflix or something. Was the very first show that we had both ever gone to, and you
Without
start
parents, yeah.
without parents. You start with that, who it was and where. I don't remember where it was.
It was in Old Orchard Beach, Maine, for me, because I grew up in Maine, eventually moved to Philly, now live in Washington.
And it was Cracker, which is still to this day one of my favorite bands.
Yep.
Spin Doctors, and Gin Blossoms.
Yeah.
The last 2/3 of those, for the next 15 to 20 years, I felt embarrassed to tell people that was who I went to see for my first band. I went to see Cracker, but I am quite proud of all three of those bands in my older age now. And when you said that, I was just like, hold on a second. Now, it turns out I was 14 years old in 1994, correct?
Yeah, I think it was 1994. Yeah.
Yeah, exact same tour, same year, but mine was in Atlanta at Lakewood Amphitheater, and boy, it rained, and if I was an adult, it would have sucked. But I was a child who was having the time of my life, finally not having parents and going to a show. It's probably what sparked all this for the next 20, well, at that point now, 30 years. But
Me too. Yeah. Yeah, it rained at mine too. And I remember the ground was dry because we were packed in so tight and the crowd was moving. And when you look down, it was raining on us, but the ground was dry. And I just thought that was so cool.
Was that
how you're moving with the crowd?
Was that an amphitheater kind of thing?
It was a minor league baseball stadium.
Oh, okay. So
it's an outdoor show.
Somewhat similar to way an amphitheater, except opposite, seats behind, grass up front.
Yeah,
amphitheater
exactly.
Seats up front, grass behind. That was just so these connections were just like, this is not real. What's going on?
I'm going to ask only because of the anniversary. It's 25 years Woodstock 99. I mean, I've seen the documentaries. Bryan, I've made fun of you at length because, the line that I remember from the documentary is your generation was wanted to be pissed off at something and had nothing to be pissed off at. So that's why you guys destroyed that venue. That's
you guys nothing. I didn't destroy the venue.
I didn't destroy anything either.
That's what I want to ask. You guys had a good time. Where were you when the fires? Yeah. Which one of you set everything on fire? I know it was one of you.
Beth,
it wasn't me.
Yeah, well, you, Bryan. Beth, you start. Where were you? That's a good question. Where were you Sunday around 7 p.m. plus onward on Sunday? Where were you?
Well, also just to back up a little bit on how I got there, I went to Woodstock 99 by myself also. So that was my first, no, it was my second.
We're both complete loners.
Solo.
Like, to me, I'm like, yeah, of course. Why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah. But
angry teenagers. Just angry teenagers. That's all.
I guess, or just like the person who is into music enough to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
And, like save that money, spend that money, take the trip. I did a tour bus thing from Portland, Maine to New York for Woodstock 99.
Wow.
And I met people on the bus. So I made friends with, I went by myself. I was terrified to do it. I had gone to the fish festival, Lemon Wheel, by myself also. So that kind of led me into it. But I was really scared and I almost didn't go. And I got on the bus. We found out that we couldn't bring in glass bottles, so everybody was just passing around stuff, drinking on the bus.
You couldn't bring in anything effectively, yeah.
Yeah. So people were just passing around their alcohol, and I don't know. We just all bonded, and I think there were about 6 of us that just stayed together that whole weekend. So we were together that last night on Sunday before, or when the fires started. We were watching Chili Peppers, and we saw the fires from farther out, and my one friend that I'd made had brought a rope. So we all, for this purpose, we all hung onto the rope to get us through the crowd together and get back to our campsite. And we had already packed up all our stuff because the bus was leaving that night and it was supposed to rain. So we had all our gear ready to go. So we just got back to camp and got out of there.
I had this sad image of Bryan with a rope, but no one else is holding on to it. It's just Bryan with a rope.
Where are all my friends?
Bryan's hanging himself with the rope.
All by itself. Nobody will grab the rope. I wrote down, and this is, I'm glad you brought that up, Beth, because this is when I remember talking to you on Friday night, I think. This is not unusual for you to go to these type of things by yourself. And we've had several people on our show who have done this, hitchhiked. Yvonne, I think, hitchhiked from New York, upstate New York, right?
Yeah.
That is such a wild idea to me. I can't imagine whatever you want to call it, the stones.
It's foreign to us because we're so close to Bonnaroo. We just roll down the hill and we're there.
You don't have to.
So the idea of getting
especially
on a bus,
in present day times, and I'll even use 99 as present day. You go back 30 years from there, and hitchhiking across the country was a pretty normal thing in the counterculture. Yeah. But it hasn't been a normal thing in my adult life. I mean, that's a thing you got to be pretty careful of. But yeah, the loner aspect of it is an interesting.
Are you glad you did it alone?
Choice.
Would you rather not have? Talk about that a little. I mean, that's just such a good for you, because I couldn't do it. I would never. I'm not that guy.
Well, ultimately, I mean, I'm glad I did. I'm glad I've done it both ways, especially with Bonnaroo. I go now for my friends, I wouldn't, and for taking photos because I love doing that. But, and even then it's all about the photographers and making friends there.
Yeah, it's friends you have that you wouldn't have made unless you had done this alone,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's the good thing about solo travel, because you do get to meet people when you wouldn't if you're just there with a friend and you're talking to that person.
Exactly. If you go in one group, you pretty much stay contained within that bubble. But if you're alone, you're open to meeting all kinds of people.
Yeah. I mean, the first time I did it, I went to Lemon Wheel. I had been to a fish festival. I guess that was my first. Anyway, I went to Lemon Wheel. I was in college. I was packing up with my friends. I got tired of waiting around for them, and I just drove my own car up there. So that was the first time.
Story of my life.
Let's
go.
Let's go. They're going to start. We're going to miss it. So I just
hold on. I got to get a hold of Jimmy. He's got to run over to his mom's house. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. I'm out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I got to stop and get gas.
Tired of waiting.
That's what kills me.
Oh, I got to get some money out of the ATM. That's right, because we haven't been planning this for a month. You need ATM money now.
Seriously. Yes.
Terribly
I love those guys, but yeah. I went by myself, and I just camped by myself the first night, but then I ran into them the next day. In 65,000 people or whatever, I ran into my friends, and then I hung out with them after that. Yeah, it's crazy how that. Amazing that happens.
There's a story that's only important or interesting to the people I know, but at Woodstock, the same kind of thing. That we had 3 different carloads. 2 were caravan, 1 was wherever, and then eventually in the middle, I can't remember who it was. It might have been Rage Against the Machine. boom, pops out my buddy. It's 200,000 people here.
Yeah.
We didn't travel with
Always
you.
happens, right?
And there
It's
was some
happened to me at
serious,
other festivals too. Yeah.
seriously bad drugs going on that weekend, and it almost gave me a panic attack. I'm like, what are you doing here? How am I running into you? This is insane. This is not Bonnaroo. These days, for me, since I've been around so long, to run into people I know, I mean, that's almost expected. 4 states north. And however many thousand and whatever miles, that was pretty cool. Now I didn't do Woodstock, by myself. We had 7 of us, and we were a little. I'm a little younger, so we were 19. I don't know how we survived. Like, I don't know how. Not from the danger, not from the fires, not from the lack of the amenity or the water and all the stuff we all know about. None of that stuff.
Yeah.
That's not what I mean why we didn't survive. We were barely old enough to be out of the house.
Yeah.
And we're just driving all over
19
upstate
and
New
dumb.
York. No idea what the hell we're doing. I don't know we couldn't bring anything in. So, I mean, this is the worst festival that's ever just been organized in the history of music. And you park way outside, and you drag all your shit. Can you imagine going to Bonnaroo and then just, hey, get your stuff out of your car and drag it in a half a mile, and then good luck, MF. Like, it was, at that time, though, it didn't seem weird. I was just like, okay, this is what we do.
It's just normal.
All right, let's just throw our tent down. No shade, no easy ups, no tapestries, no flags. Boy, the whole story when we got there started setting up tents, and 10 minutes later, it looked like you were on another planet. Like,
sounds like my first Bonnaroo. I mean,
well, a little bit because of the how new of a concept, at least to us in America and certainly in the South.
I mean, I told the story. If I didn't bring an umbrella that happened to be in my truck, we would not have had shade.
Yeah,
I bungeed it onto a table that I happened to have, and we, moved around with the sun. I didn't bring shade.
My memory is just it's not vivid enough to remember like I'm talking Woodstock again, like 2:00 on Saturday or 2:00 on Friday. I don't remember that. Those memories are gone.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's shocking to me that we, with 95 plus heat days, no shade, no campsite worth speaking of, no money, everything cost like 8 to 10 times more than everything else you've ever seen in your life. I don't know how we did it. I just don't. We didn't have cell phones. I didn't have a cell phone at 19 years old. Did you feel any danger there? Did you feel uncomfortable? And what did you see music-wise that stuck out? Because I didn't see a lot of music because I was dying of heat exhaustion the whole time I was there.
I was dying of heat exhaustion too, definitely. I got really sunburned and really dehydrated. But I really didn't feel unsafe. I think it's because, and I've learned this and developed this as a solo female traveler, I really try to fly under the radar. That's kind of my style anyway. So I'm wearing like a band t-shirt.
So you weren't walking around topless and naked is what you're saying.
Which I'm certainly not blaming victims in any way.
No, of course not.
That's something that I do to protect myself, is just to fly under the radar, kind of look like a dude and, just skate on by.
But it's a recipe for disaster, we all know. I mean, Netflix and Max both have a very extensive documentary on this. If you really want to get deep into this, I suggest you watch those. We won't go into all that. But sorry, back to so you didn't really feel in danger, which is great, because we had females with us, and their story would be we didn't feel in danger either. What about music specifically?
And I also, the side note to that, I didn't feel like I was in danger because I had a crew. I mean, I guess I would have hidden and would have figured it out. There was definitely that undercurrent, and I see that from the documentaries. There was. Now that I look back on it, there was an undercurrent that things could go bad at any time. Not necessarily, I didn't really feel violence toward women, but just that everything could it wasn't a particularly well-run festival, and everything could go bad. So there was that. And to that point, I, my sort of hippie heart, I really wanted to see Guster because I was fan rep for them. I sold their CDs. they fit in with that whole Spin Doctors, Gin Blossoms.
Oh yeah, Gus was
Fish,
right into that. They were
all the
early
stuff,
Saturday. Yeah.
New England jam band kind of thing. So my friends that I had made, and I'm sure I was kind of annoyed at this at the time, but they didn't want me to go anywhere by myself. So they must have felt some sense of things being a little off. So they split. So they, instead of going to see Kid Rock, which, I mean, ultimately may have been the show to go just because
At that time.
that was him at his peak, whatever. Instead of going to Kid Rock, half of them came to Guster with me because I was going to see Guster no matter what.
And quickly, so people who don't know that those were, I've got the lineup in front of me right now.
Yeah.
Kid Rock
I got my t-shirt.
actually, show that. Kid Rock actually
there's the
blew
t-shirt.
up because of this show. He was not really to that level yet.
Yeah.
And but he was, like, the minute that show was over, Kid Rock had Limp Bizkit and Kid Rock turned into what they were, solidified with this show. But yeah, 1 o'clock was Kid Rock
Right.
on the main stage, and then 1 o'clock was Guster on the second main stage, which
Yep.
never, in all the documentaries, in everything you see, everything you read, nothing comes from the west stage, which is where Guster was. You
Yep.
know what it is. That was a beautiful stage. That was a great. Nothing bad happened there because Collective Soul played there. The Roots played there. George Clinton played there. Mike Ness, Our Lady Peace, Rusted Root. Nothing bad happened over there. It was, but the point I was about to make that I didn't. These stages were a mile apart.
Right. You had to really
mile
commit to go into that other stage.
on a tarmac, a landing strip. This is a former military base, a military complex waste dump is what it ended up turning into on a tarmac mile. So yeah, hey, let's run over and see this. No, that's a mile on the asphalt at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday. You could die on your way over there if you're malnourished and not hydrated.
Yeah.
I'm
Absolutely.
I'm glad you brought up that topic about the being a woman at an event like that, because I felt like that 99, though I wasn't there, but I remember 07, 08 Bonnaroo, thinking how things had changed. Like the fact that a female could go to a Bonnaroo by herself and walk around by herself and feel safe. Not that I'm a female, and I don't mean to even pretend, but I just remember noticing it was such a difference than a decade earlier or even 20 years, where you just didn't see that. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. You had to, it was like girls could be there just for the music. They didn't have to travel in packs and be looking over their shoulders all the time. And I remember noticing the difference. So it's interesting you bring that up.
Yeah, and these documentaries lay this out pretty well. The late 90s was an interesting time.
Oh, the 70s was horrible.
Technology was starting to take off. People were starting to begin to communicate a little bit more than your average traditional ways. The biggest political story was Monica Lewinsky. I mean, there was this sense of, and it was coming out of the grunge movement into the more angry in a different way music. Like grunge was angry in a poetic way, I would say, and the music to the mid to late 90s was anger in a, we're not trying to hide it at all. Give me something to break some shit. Give me that's not grunge.
Yeah.
That's not poetry. That's declaration of break things. Like the words don't, there's no hidden meaning. Go ahead, Beth. Sorry.
But I was going to say, I mean, it wasn't, that's the way people think about Woodstock, but it was also Rage Against the Machine, who was angry with something to say, and Korn, who I guess are kind of just break shit, but
yeah,
Korn
they're a
had
little
an
more
amazing
poetic
performance. Though. Yeah. Korn was one of my favorites at Woodstock 99. And then also bringing it back to Bonnaroo when I got to shoot them last year.
God.
I mean, that's like the holy grail. That was amazing.
Yeah, Korn is. I was not a fan of Korn back then, and I would put them in like right in the middle of. I'm angry, but I'm also poetic, and and I think their music has aged so well, so well. That's what made the Bonnaroo Korn set. I mean, Barry, you were surprised when all of us. Yeah, Russ, we were from Tara, from all our old.
Oh yeah, whole camp.
We were like. Could you believe this Korn show we just saw?
Yeah.
And I believe it's because it has aged so well. At that time, their peak of popularity was hitting, and it was angry sounding. Boy, it was angry as hell. It sounded angry as hell.
Right.
And that was night one. And that was when everybody was full of energy. That was Thursday night of Bonnaroo. Like when everybody's at their best and peak energy. That was how it was on Friday. And that place was... I mean, it seemed like we're at the greatest place in the world.
Yep.
There's nothing better than this. Then you wake up on Saturday and you realize you're on a toxic waste dump.
A tarmac.
Yeah.
That really sums up.
And waters are $4.
Doesn't that sum up Gen X perfectly well?
In 1999, for $4 for a water, and most everybody's under the age of 25. I mean, I'd say half the crowd is under the age of 25.
Yeah, doesn't that sum up Gen X perfectly well? I mean, just being angry at something, but you don't know what. The baby boomers had Vietnam.
That's
I know.
Bryan.
Yeah.
No, it's
before
just
that
it's
it
hard
was
to
World War
define.
II. Gen X was really the first generation in a while that didn't have a big
Something
war
to be
or
mad
something
at.
to be mad at. So we were just angry just to be angry. Yeah.
All that's fair. All that's fair. And that was kind of. I just watched the Netflix one last night, actually, or over the last 2 days, just to get ready for some other stuff I'm doing and for this, just to refresh. And Michael Lang, who is a promoter of all three of them, who died a couple of years ago now, he's just a terrible promoter, but somehow continued to be able to keep being involved with these Woodstocks because he's so famous from that first movie, from the first 69, that thing saved the Woodstock name. Woodstock 69 was a freaking wreck, a complete danger, public danger. It just gets romanticized mainly because of that movie. But Michael Lang was interviewed on it, and he kept saying we were trying. All those candles ended up being the fires. That was a peace visual for awareness of gun violence. You think anybody on that Air Force base cared about gun violence?
Right.
If they had one, they'd be using it. Like, so there was no. They wanted it to be about some kind of good in the world. Like, we're here to also put this mystique, this aura of Woodstock.
Sure.
But it just wasn't there. Nobody was buying it. And then they got treated like animals for 3 days. We got treated. I didn't know any better. I had the best time in the world. Like, I got home and thought, with the news coverage being what it was then as compared to now, it was days before I understood what had actually happened. Because we took off as there were just, there's some fires. Well, it's time to go now. This place really sucks. We're really
Pretty
tired
much,
of this.
yeah.
Interesting.
I wasn't there watching the place get, destroyed to the ground. I was long gone. We were maybe to Virginia by that time. I don't know. I don't remember. But so the scope of it I didn't understand for a while. But yeah, to your point, Barry, they wanted it to be that. The promoters, Michael Lang in particular, maybe not some of the other guys, but because he's a hippy dippy guy, even into the last living days. And they talk about that. And that was what the candlelight visual was. You idiots!
Yeah.
What are you doing? You're giving out 100,000.
Adding fire.
Yeah,
You're giving out
fire.
100,000 candles
Yeah, right.
people that you wouldn't give fresh drinking water to for the last 3 days. What do you think they're going to do with it?
Yeah.
So the anger of a people, of an era, of a generation, everything you said, Barry's right on. And Taco, you mentioned it too. But that weekend, that was
it's
real
always easy
anger.
to look back, and
That was a
we always
real
try to
anger
label
of that.
things going back.
Sure. But that weekend was a real anger that moved away from just male, toxic male masculinity. It moved away from that and turned into, if you were here, you'd do the same.
Well,
thing.
and that kind of wraps up my point, and I remember watching those thinking how quickly. So that's 99 to 02 Bonnaroo.
Yeah.
It goes from
Less than 3 years.
male anger, females being grabbed and treating horribly to not in just 3 years.
Pretty amazing. It's pretty
in
amazing.
just 3 years.
Yeah, because did we ever think
And the
there'd be
the
another
culture of it
festival
now.
after Woodstock 99? No, you'd think there's no way they'll hold another
Right.
event like that.
Complete change.
Yeah, who's going to ensure this
Yeah.
if nothing else?
Yeah.
Right?
But a complete attitude change.
And I think the starting of the such a niche jam band community festival was the perfect recipe
Yeah.
to jump off of.
That was the
And
antidote.
because-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
the Korn guy, the Kid Rock guy, the Limp Bizkit guy, they want to beat up hippies. You
Yeah.
know, like so that was equal strokes, genius, and luck.
Yeah.
I would think.
I do remember thinking that. In just 3 years, that attitude change was massive. So pretty cool.
But I'm afraid I might have cut you off. Any other performances you want to from that weekend, Woodstock, Beth, that stick out? Because
gosh.
I don't have a good answer to this question. Bush, Offspring, Rage,
Rage Against the Machine, Metallica. I remember those two up against each other. I really, really wanted to see the ones in the hangar, but I was just too tired and sunburned and dehydrated. So
I saw Mickey Hart from the Dead because I was still Woodstock was my I was in love with Woodstock, the lore of the whole brand. And
yeah, I'm sure I was too.
Anybody who would speak even badly of 99 afterwards, I was like, you don't know, man. This is my Wood. Don't talk shit about my Woodstock. But there was no alumni there. 94, that other disaster, had a lot of alumni. Crosby, Stills, Nash, Joe Cocker, Traffic. And I was 14 then. I was too young to do that kind of stuff. But Mickey Hart from the Dead was there. And I made it a point to go see that at that awesome West stage that no one talks about. And then you'll appreciate this a lot, I would guess, Barry. I always mess up his last name. John Entwistle?
Entwistle.
Entwistle.
Yeah.
John
Bass player
Entwistle.
from The Who. He had a little side gig in the emerging artist stage, was just in this disgustingly ugly, like, military plane hangar. So, like, bigger than, like, just a plane hangar. Like, it's massive, and it's the only place you could find shade, so it was always crammed full. And he had a little gig going, and I was like, well, I be damned if I'm coming to Woodstock and I'm not going to go see the guy from The Who.
Yeah, good for you.
You know,
one of the best bass players
Yeah.
ever. Good for you.
And I'll be damned if I'm not going to go see Mickey Hart. And Bruce Hornsby wasn't quite on my radar at that point. I wish, that said, I've watched it. That was great too. There was so much great about the festival.
DMX.
DMX.
That DMX set was amazing. That was kind of like a classic. When you go back and look at it, that was a career-defining set too.
Many of them are.
Sheryl Crow was great. You know, Sheryl Crow's another Bonnaroo crossover. If you look it down the list, I look at so many things I saw at Woodstock 99 and then saw again at Bonnaroo. And it's just kind of a nice full circle.
I mean, and when you watch
circle's not over, but
and when you watch all these docs and you read all about the Woodstock 99 stuff that you do know, that we all think we know, which you do know most of it. I mean, there's Counting Crows, there's Wyclef Jean, there's Dave Matthews Band, there's Alanis. I mean, there was Everlast, Elvis Costello, Jewel, Creed. My God, the resurgence of Creed makes my head spin.
I saw Creed there.
And annoys me, but Creed and Brian Seltzer Orchestra, Willie Nelson, Al Green, James Brown.
Nice.
None of that ever gets discussed.
Nice.
And there wasn't rape going on at those shows.
Right.
So that
well, maybe there was.
Well,
we don't even know
maybe
the
there
extent of what
Good-
was going on. But
fair point, but there was so much that was great about it too. And I think that's where my defense was up for so long. And then eventually I was like, okay, I got to put my I can't fight this one anymore.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it was one of the best experiences of my life. I mean, it led me into all the other things that I've done since.
Oh,
where it was just
I
like
wanted
I've
to
heard
do was
from other
going
people.
off on my own.
I've heard from other people.
Yeah,
say
I
the
didn't
same.
go. See, I went to go even. I mean, I was the oldest 19-year-old ever. Like, I'm not much different now than then. I wanted to see great music, and that was it.
Yeah,
and
me too.
Party.
I mean, that's my thing too.
And-
I think I was 20. I was 20 or 21.
Yeah, and
when I
Party,
went.
but not destroy stuff. Like that was never
Yeah.
part of it. It was go see CC DeVille from Poison. He had a side band going on at the emerging artist stage, and I didn't particularly go to see that, but while we were there, like,
There you go.
guy from Poison, how cool is this?
That's the other thing. That's another. If you go back to the reasons I go back, it's because you can talk to people about these obscure music things, and you will say that I got to see CC DeVille from Poison. People will be like, "Oh, that's awesome!" Not like,
Who?
okay,
Yeah.
whatever. You know, you don't get to do that in your normal life when you're around people who are super into music, and you can say, "Oh, this person played with this person, and I saw them here," and tell all
Yeah,
those
this
stories.
wild
It's just
ass. I'm
amazing.
just trying to get shade because I'm this close to overheating and need medical attention. And then I look up
Right.
and CC DeVille from the Stepmothers. That's how I saw it.
Amazing.
My new band,
Amazing.
the Stepmothers. Like the Stepmothers. This is great. And then I passed
It's
out.
good to be around people who think that's cool, like other people who understand that that's cool.
Yeah. No, 100%. And that's the Bonnaroo community and the festival
Exactly.
aura of community is like, well, yeah, tell me about 2007.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Right. What was your favorite show in 2007?
Right.
It's really fun.
What are the shows that you've loved over the years, both as a photographer and not? Because I've done it both ways. I've done it.
Yeah.
Carrying that camera around is fun. It gets you into places that no one else gets to, but it's a lot of work, and you only get
It's a lot
3
of weight.
songs. It's a lot
It's
of
very
weight.
heavy.
It's
Yeah.
good and bad. So
Yeah.
what are your favorite moments, both as a photographer and then also just as a fan? And I guess the third thing is, I can't tell you how many times I was at a show that I wished I'd had my camera.
Always.
And then the ones
Yep.
that I'm glad I didn't have. So that's a lot. But what are your favorites?
Let's see. For shooting, I love shooting chaos like GWAR. That's definitely my thing as a photographer. I shot Idols too. I wish I had been able to be there for more. I had to run over to Idols from Melanie Martinez, which it was what it was. Some of the bands you think you're going to get great photo access to, you don't, and then that's disappointing. That was the case like with Chapel Roan. We didn't get in there. Post Malone is always awesome to shoot because he's very generous with photographers. He actually comes around to each of us, looks at us, points at us, makes sure that we all get our shots. So really appreciate that. Carly Rae Jepsen was fun to shoot this time. She also posed a lot and came out on the speakers and pointed and all that stuff. So as far as bands that I really like, I'm just looking at this year. I mean, Rushing Murphy, I was really excited to see, and she was also great to shoot. David Bruce was in there with me. It was late night after GWAR. But she's great. Every pose is amazing. Every shot's amazing with her. I also shot Gregory Alan Isakoff, and that is a band. I love Gregory Alan Isakoff. My friend plays in his band. He plays guitar in his band. Sorry, Greg, not my favorite to shoot because the lighting is really dark in the beginning. So when you shoot them on tour, they actually let you do the encore where they all come in the front and there's really nice yellow light on them and you can get the good shots, but you couldn't do that at Bonnaroo. So some of those bands that I really like to listen to are not as much fun. You just don't get the shots because they don't move around on stage as much. Trying to think about other. So it's getting to the point with Bonnaroo where sometimes I'll skip bands that I really like. I mean, not ones where I have friends playing with them, but bands I really like because I know the shots aren't going to be as good.
Beth, real quick, what year did you start doing officially start doing photo shooting for the festival? Because we know how long you've been going as just a fan patron. What year did you start doing that?
I want to say 2016 might be the first year that they got me in to do it. Yeah, it's been a while. 16, 17 maybe, somewhere around there. So I've seen that different side of it since I've been doing that. But yeah, I mean, give me a rapper. Like, I loved shooting J. Cole, even though he didn't have any production or anything behind him, just because of the way he moves around and expresses himself. Metal bands, rappers, Cage the Elephant, anything where they're doing stuff.
Yeah.
Remember Macklemore, like flying through the air. I got to shoot him. He was jumping from speaker to speaker.
It's fun.
But
you get to see
it's different than
side.
the shows you like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of my favorite shows have been, I mean, Les Claypool, all the stuff in the beginning. It was a very different culture in the beginning. And I love all those bands too. Like all the Les Claypool adjacent hippie bands.
Well, and Les Claypool, I'm imagining, would let the access be wide ass open. I mean, that guy would almost let the whole crowd come up on stage and take pictures of him.
I'm sure. That was pre me shooting, unfortunately, so I never got to do.
Yeah, he hasn't been around in a while. For those that weren't, Primus singer and Bucket, Bernie Brains, all those bands. What was it with Trey? Oysterhead, all that stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Claypool was there every year for the first 5, 6, 7 years.
Always.
And you just find him walking around like, "Hey, Les, what's going on, man?" And he'd be like, "Hey, how you doing, man?" Like it was so cool. But he hadn't been really in that ethos in a while.
Maybe 2025.
Did you shoot Jack White? Were you there for Jack White? You remember that
I
one?
didn't. I wasn't shooting, but I was there. So
I did. The only reason I bring it up is because we only get to
Blue?
shoot. Yes, we get to shoot 3 songs, and the entire thing was completely blue, and he had his back to us the entire time.
Yeah.
And
That's
I
what I'm
remember
talking
walking
about,
out
Greg.
with
It's
the guys from like Rolling Stone or whatever, and I said to one of them, I said, I felt like we just got a big fat finger, and and he's like, I just take pictures. I'm like, yeah, that was a big fuck you, is what that was.
Yeah. You
Whatever,
gotta work
Rolling
around
Stone
some of
guy.
that stuff.
Yeah.
That was an annoying blueness.
Thank you.
Like,
Imagine
why is
me?
this
I'm
this
like,
way
why am
the
I
whole
taking
time?
pictures of this nothing?
And I just mean from
you know.
an attendee watching the show, and that was Blunderbuss was that record that came out that year with the blue cover and the blue everything else, and it's an awesome album. Loved it. And I was like, this is the most annoying thing to look at the whole time. It never changes.
I'm glad to hear you say that because
Never changes.
I took it personal. That and the other thing I
I didn't
remember
take
is the My Morning Jacket, maybe 9, no, been later. No, it'd been 16 or whatever. Circuital. They opened with this bass note, and I was standing next to another guy, and we were leaning against the speaker column, and they hit that bass note, and it was just as deep, deep, deep. And the guy looked at me and said, I think I just wet myself. Because it was so, it was so
He hit the brown
yeah,
note.
me too.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah,
Inside
Still
baseball
Vanessa was
stuff.
like that last year too. It was all dark, and then some of the best shots because Still Vanessa was also great on stage and moves around and all that. But I mean, some of those photographers are so good. I learned so much from all the photographers. And I'll look at something like that where it's just blue, and I know all I'd have to do is desaturate it and turn it black and white and sharpen it up. That's all I could do with something like that, and they get the most amazing. Things where you get the atmosphere of it and the beautiful color.
They're the pros.
Yeah.
They're the best.
I'm always learning,
Beth, thank you so much, and
I can't wait till next year. We have talked about,
same.
and Beth, you were kind enough to take pictures of the 3 of us when we were sitting in Russ's bus, and the thing we were talking about was that this year's festival has been a what did we call it, a re-energizing or we had another word,
Renaissance.
That's Brad's, but
yeah,
it was a common theme amongst almost anybody we ever talked to. Huh?
All right, I got nothing else. It's a long show. We knew it would be. It's a good show.
Happy to have a new and better and coordinated camp mates going into next year, because the last year or two it's been, I don't want to call it depressing on that end.
No,
nothing's depressing about Bonnaroo.
It felt,
but there's been a little bit of just like, oh God.
I know. Where are we committed? Are we into this? Or yeah,
it's like the campsite building and the campsite creation was most people all agree with this, is a big part of it.
Yeah.
And so that part was a little disappointing. And we've got that back.
I'm
It seems
recommitted.
like.
I'm totally
seems like-
recommitted. I'm buying new stuff. I'm thinking about new stuff. So, yeah. All right. See you guys. Let's do it again next week. Bye.